I mean, you went off on Saturday night in the immediate aftermath. You then got an explanation for Mark Stoops deciding to punt on 4th and 8 from the Georgia 48-yard line. And you were not satisfied with that. In fact, you were less satisfied. You were even madder than before. So before we get into your response, and what's interesting about this is in the immediate aftermath, I was tending to agree with you. I went back and listened to that show. I was tending to agree with you. I actually have done a little research myself, and I think I've wound up on Team Stoops, which surprised me as much as it surprised you. But I have my reasons, and we'll talk about it. But first, we got to hear Mark Stoops' explanation for punting 4th and 8, Georgia 48-yard line, 3 minutes to go, 3 timeouts.
I don't take offense to the criticism of not going for it, whatever. Again, I've told the coaches on the headset on first, and I had every intention of going for it. I wish we would have gained some yards, you know what I mean, and had a manageable 3rd down, manageable 4th down. But you got to realize in that same zone on the plus 48, I want to say we had 2 sack fumbles, 1 sack, and 1 sack, and then the next one went back from the plus. Think about if we get 3 there. Think about if Coach Stoops goes conservative and we just run it 3 plays in a row and kick the field goal there, right? Nobody. I mean, again, and I'm not. Don't. If you're gonna report this, report the whole damn thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. But if we would have just went. How many people are saying, hey, Coach Stoops, you're dumb. We had the ball on the plus 47. Why didn't you just pound it 3 more times? We're moving the ball, really good against a good defense. What if we'd have got those 3, instead of gotten sacked, fumbled, and went all the way back to the 22 on the other side? Think about that swing. Nobody talks about that, do they? You know what I mean? So when I had the ball 3 times around the same zone and went negative, and on 2nd down, damn near had a fumble. 3rd down, damn near had a fumble. We got to that point by playing field position, playing defense. We had a chance to win that game just the way we played it. We came up a play or 2 short. I stand by that.
All right, Ari. I'm going to now 47-yard line. Sorry, I said 48. 47-yard line. So 1 yard even closer to the end zone. Ari, I'm going to let you cook on this.
I am more disappointed that you flopped on me than I am.
I have good reasons. I want to hear you talk about Mark Stoops' reasons first, and then we'll get to mine.
Well, all of my reasons are still the same from the show that we did on Saturday night. But the thing that occurred to me after we did the show and as I was writing the column about it yesterday on On3, Andy, is that we're talking about a man who presumably has the best job in America. We're talking about a man who has probably gotten Kentucky to or near its program ceiling. We're talking about a situation here where if you win this game, you bring Kentucky to a height that it has not seen. I know it's been a few games away from the SEC championship under his leadership. I think he's an incredible coach and somebody who's done about as good of a job of building a program as anybody has in the last decade. This isn't like an anti-Mark Stoops thing. But if you are going to flirt with the Texas A&M job, I think that's an implication that you yearn for more, that you yearn to play for championships, to play at the highest possible level, to win bigger, better trophies. And in the moment where he could have done something for a program that doesn't compete at that level, I thought he played passively. I thought he made the wrong decision. And I thought he took the ball out of Kentucky's hands. Now, the thing that I can't wait to respond to is whatever math you came up with, because I'm gonna freak out. Like, I'm sure there's calculators out there and analytics, and I wrote in the column, I don't care what anecdote you have or what mathematical equation we're solving or what analytics say, those equations don't take into account that Kentucky was playing Georgia. Like, you can say best defense, worst defense. I'm going to let you explain this to people because I think it's interesting. But in that moment, in the part of the season that they're in, on their home field, with 3 timeouts, needing to get a stop if you don't get it anyway, they didn't touch the ball again until there was 8 seconds left. You don't give the best team in college football the program that we were laughing about being Darth Vader, the get out of jail free card. Could you imagine the wave of enthusiasm and excitement that Kirby Smart felt the second he saw that punter come on the field? When you know you're 1 first down away from potentially losing on the road to Kentucky, he let him off the hook. And there's no equation or anecdote that you can say right now that's going to change my mind.
The Money Game. Incredible docuseries on Prime Video about the dawn of the NIL era. They follow LSU's athletes last season. So you're talking about Jayden Daniels as he wins the Heisman, Livvy Dunne as she becomes a global megastar, Angel Reese as she defends a national title and prepares to go into the WNBA. And it's insider access brought to you by Shaquille O'Neal and other folks who are very inside this game. It's so fascinating to see how these people navigate this process. Like, who helps them? Jayden Daniels, it's his mom. Livvy Dunne, it's her sister. And just a very enlightening look at the NIL era. I've got to finish binging it. I've got a couple more episodes to go, but I've been just locked in on this thing. So if you want to watch The Money Game on Prime Video, if you're already subscribed to Prime Video, just hit that link in the description of this YouTube video that you're watching. It'll take you right there. If you're not already subscribed to Prime Video, well, what are we doing? Let's go. You get The Money Game. You get the Rings of Power. You get NFL football on Thursday nights. It's one of the best deals going. So give it a shot. Check out The Money Game. So you are bringing feelings, and I'm going to bring facts, because here's my thing. I kill coaches who punt when they should go for it, when the math says they should go for it. I kill them. But if I'm going to kill them for punting when the math says they should go for it, then I should not kill them when they punt when the math says they should punt. So there's not a college football fourth down calculator out there on the internet. There is an NFL one that uses years of data. And I used that one because I thought that was interesting. And I actually changed up the circumstances of it so that I imagined if it was the best offense versus the worst defense. So I used the Chiefs offense versus the Commanders defense with the same circumstances, same time of the game, same number of timeouts remaining. Now the NFL is a little different because it'll tell you maybe go for the field goal, the 63-yard field goal, if you're in that situation because you have an NFL kicker. But you know what it didn't say at all? Go for it. It said punt or kick a field goal. Every way I sliced it, every team I tried, every circumstance I tried, with that circumstance, with 3 timeouts, with 3 minutes and 9 seconds to go in a game, every single one said punt or kick, which they weren't going to kick. None of them said go for it. So it said if you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, don't go for it. Punt. None of them said go for it. So if I am going to kill every coach, and I do, who's got 4th and 3 in plus territory and punts, then why should I not say, you know what? If I'm going to believe in the math this way, why don't I believe in the math this way? And and you say, oh, it didn't work. I disagree. Ari, what did Oscar Delp do when he caught the ball on Georgia's next possession after Kentucky punted?
I know.
What did he do? Tell me.
He put the ball on the ground.
He fumbled. So it worked. The ball did not bounce the way they needed it to, but it worked.
Can I talk now?
And okay. And let's also say, okay, because the coaches always say this when we kill them for the analytics. But the situation of the game matters, and what's going on and how our team's performing in this situation matters. You're absolutely right. 4th and 8. Ari, do you have to throw or do you have to run on that play?
I'm so excited to respond. You have to throw.
Okay. Kentucky called passes on the previous 2 plays. What happened on the previous 2 plays?
It was bad.
Did Brock Vandegrift almost get sacked on those plays?
Yes.
So was Kentucky going to make 8 yards on that play?
Do you think you have something here by saying that Kentucky has a hard time moving the ball against Georgia? Like, is that like a revelation? They're playing Georgia at home.
It worked. He fumbled.
Also, I'm not even results oriented. He could have muffed the punt and they could have recovered it and walked into the end zone, that wouldn't have changed my mind about the original decision to punt. Like, people say don't be results oriented. I'm not going to be results oriented. It could have worked. Absolutely. I'm not saying that
if you're process oriented, the process of choosing to punt is the correct choice, because you had probably about a 25% chance of making the first down in a perfect situation. In a situation where you can't block Georgia's front, you probably had a 10% chance of making it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you could make a case that the play calling before fourth down could have been different because they were moving the ball on the ground very well. And I think he was even saying that about him. I'm not saying
we agree on that.
I'm not saying it's a good situation. I'm not saying Kentucky going for it on fourth down is, absolutely 1,000% going to work. But your NFL calculator does not take into account the situation that they're playing. They lost by 1 million to South Carolina the week before. They played neck and neck with the number one team in the country for 3.5 full.
And their defense was playing better than their offense.
I understand.
And their defense forced a fumble.
And their defense could have forced the fumble at the 48, Andy, and it would have been a chance to win still. They had to get a stop either way. And I don't know if your NFL calculator has any sort of parallel to college, because the NFL and what goes on in the NFL is completely different than what goes on in college.
No, it's pretty close.
And I just, like, in my head, I don't know how you even look the team in the eye.
Well, you can look the defense in the eye.
Ball out of their hands.
You can look the defense in the eye. I don't know that I want to look the offense in the eye, because the offense was busy getting sacked.
You move the ball all the way down. Vandegrift had converted a few first downs with his legs in that game. If your answer or your thought is there's no way Kentucky could have gotten 8 yards against them, then I'm not going to argue with you. Kentucky is playing Georgia. The only thing I'm arguing is that if you're going to lose, because they probably would have lost either way, honestly. They're playing Georgia. It's very hard to beat Georgia, especially when you're Kentucky. Lose by swinging. It's like you have to fight tooth and nail.
You want the thing that gives you the right feelings rather than the potential right result. They did the thing that gave them the best chance to win. The guy fumbled. They didn't get the fumble.
They were 15 yards away from making a field goal potentially, or having a makeable attempt from winning a football game on their home floor against Georgia, on their home field against Georgia. Then there's no calculator or anything that there's like, it does not persuade me at all, because the calculator doesn't.
Yeah, because you're based on feelings. You're thinking
it's not
completely with your feelings, and you're not thinking like someone whose job it is to do this.
The game of football isn't played on a blackjack card. It just isn't. So, I know that.
Well, okay. Oh, yeah. You brought up blackjack. Very interesting.
Blackjack. Yeah.
So you wanted Mark Stoops to hit on 19
against the 10?
You thought Mark Stoops should hit on 19.
I don't think that's what I'm saying at all. I think I want.
That's exactly what you're saying.
10.
The percentage of success was extremely low. It was not necessarily.
He was not winning. When you have 19, you have a winning hand. You're losing. You have a 16.
18.
Against the 10, and you stand. That's the way I view it. And against an 18, against the 10, you lose.
He did the thing that gave him the better chance of winning.
Then he did not.
That's his job.
The 19 against the 10. That gives you a bigger chance of losing. That's not correct.
He did the thing that gave him the better chance. You wanted him to do the thing that gave him the better chance of losing, and he did the thing that gave him the better chance of winning. And you're killing him for doing it.
According to your calculator.
According to math in general. According to football in general.
It like blows my mind.
If it's 4-3, we're having a different conversation. Now, Nishant in the chat brought up a really interesting point, and here's where I will happily kill Mark Stoops. Doesn't knowing you're going for it on fourth also change the play calling before? More runs to get into fourth and short. This is where you attack.
Yeah,
right here.
This is absolutely true. Yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah, this is where, because Mark Stoops was playing thinking about a punt and not playing thinking about going for it on fourth down. Because if you have 2nd and 8 and you think you're going to need 3 and you think you're going to go for it on fourth down, and you're the type who goes for it on fourth down, because I think this is what you're getting at. This is where we do agree.
I mean, even he said it in the news conference you just played.
Yeah, like three plays to get 8. You're calling it differently than they called it. And our friend Clark Brooks, the SEC stat cat, brought up, hey, Barry and Brown's wide open on that mesh on third down. And the left tackle just didn't hold his block long enough. I get it, but you also had just had a situation where nobody blocked anybody, and they almost knocked the ball out and took it away. So,
as the head coach of the Kentucky football program, you have to know that what was going to happen and what did happen was going to happen. Like, you had to know giving the ball.
You had to know that Oscar Delp's fumble was going to bounce out of bounds instead of into the hands of a Kentucky player.
You know what? I think that fumble was very fortuitous, and it's a shame they didn't get it back. The odds of that actually occurring and it happening are probably pretty low. So the fact that they got that far was
the odds of a fumble on the ground going to that is very random.
The thing that happened is exactly what everyone knew was going to happen, and the coach of Kentucky should have known that was going to happen. So they got closer to getting a fumble than I thought they probably would have. It's crazy that happened. They could have gotten it back, and you're right, it could have happened.
Bag guns. How does punting give you the best chance to win? Because you have to. Your defense has to make the play. I mean, if you stop them 3 and out, you get the ball back right after the 2-minute warning, which should give you time to go set up a field goal. That's the ideal situation. That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
By throwing it, right?
Well, eventually. But here's the thing, Ari. Here's the thing. You would have more than one down to throw it in that situation. Also, they forced a fumble, UT Bag Gumps. They did the thing that would give them the chance to win. The ball did not bounce to them.
If the fumble didn't happen and they would have stuffed them on 3 straight plays, they would have gotten the ball back probably at their own 30 with 2 minutes left, right? And that should give them a chance.
Pest Control agrees with you. He says, what I'm missing is that you can still force a 3 and out and or fumble even if you go for it and fail. This is true. And I will point out, in Ari's defense, the play that Delp fumbled on started at the Kentucky 48.
Right.
And the fumble happened on the Kentucky 41.
Once the clock was already basically gone, even if they would have recovered it, how much time was on the clock? They would have had to throw the ball down the field to get into field goal range in the same type of scenario.
They would have had to throw the ball down the field to get 8 yards on 4th down.
I'm saying, what your scenario is, and you keep bringing up the fumble, that even if they would have recovered the fumble, they would have been in a very under the pressure situation to pick up chunk plays, and not just 1, but 2, with very little time left on the clock.
But they would have had multiple downs and timeouts or opportunities to stop the clock by going out of bounds. Like, they would have had more control.
I know, but what do you think is a higher likelihood of them getting 4th and 8 with 3 timeouts left and still getting a stop?
The higher likelihood was them getting a defensive stop.
Timeouts.
The likelihood of them getting a defensive stop and getting the ball back with some time was higher than them getting the 4th and 8, which is why he did it.
Yeah, I mean, according to the calculator, sure.
Yeah, according to math,
also too,
as opposed to your feelings.
The worst team in the NFL and the best team in the NFL are very much closer on the field than Georgia and Kentucky are. So it's like it's not even parallel to me.
No,
if you go look at the underdogs in the NFL this week,
because they're much worse than Georgia, is much worse
in the NFL this week that were 5.5-point underdogs or higher went 9-1 against the spread, and
Ari,
they won 4 of those.
You understand when I did when I used the calculator, I put the best offense. I was making the
best
point.
Offense in the NFL and the worst defense in the NFL are closer together than Kentucky and Georgia are.
Yeah,
it's not the same
flipped
sport.
it though. You're still not getting it. I flipped it to make a point. Kentucky is way worse than Georgia. Kentucky's offense is way worse than Georgia's defense.
Yeah.
Their chances of making it were almost none. Like, if Patrick Mahomes' chances of making it against the worst defense in the NFL are almost none, then what are Brock Vandegrift's chances against Georgia of making it?
Do you realize
less than that?
Kentucky would have gone for it and then not gotten it, how we would be viewing this game? Like, we view it now as a choke job, and I view it as being cowardly at the end of the game.
We'd be viewing it as a lot because you view playing defense as cowardly and playing offense as brave.
I I view being brave in situations where you can go out and win the game in 2 plays in that situation is brave. Yes.
They could have won the game.
And also, too,
if the fumble had bounced their way.
And I know we have to move on, but the last thing I want to say, Andy, is Mark Stoops said in his news conference just then that you played that Kentucky wanted to go win the game the way they had played it, right?
Which is, they'd scored 12 points. So would you rather win it with your defense or your offense?
There were 3 minutes left in the game. You do not play field position Iowa ball with 3 minutes left on your home field when you're 15 yards away from a game.
Georgia
There's nothing that you can say.
13 points. What's Georgia going to average this season? 35?
I think it was a really hefty debate, and I was really hoping that you would come close to changing my mind. I actually
I know you're bad at math. You're in your feelings. I got it.
Like, I also feel like I do understand a little bit about this game, Andy. And you're talking about Kentucky and Georgia in Lexington. We're not talking about the Commanders and the Chiefs. We're talking about Kentucky and Georgia.
Kentucky's defense is a lot better than Kentucky's offense. And he let Kentucky's defense have a chance, and they forced a fumble, and they didn't get it.
If they win this game, the entire field of the season, the program, everything, Mark Stoops, it changed. It's so much on the line. And being passive is just not what you're in a position to do in that moment. I don't care what the calculator says. I don't care what Iowa would have done. I don't care about this cool story or the fact that he fumbled at the 50 where they already were. It doesn't matter to me. Go for it. Be a man.